Per la universitat, aquesta visibilitat internacional que assoleix a l'hora de convidar a altres persones per parlar de temes en els quals nosaltres podem liderar aquest progrés en el coneixement és molt important. És una manera de donar-nos a conèixer, però sobretot és una manera d'aprendre, perquè avui en dia les universitats o bé juguen en el rol internacional i aprenen en el context internacional, contribueixen a la formació d'alumnes amb una mentalitat i amb una filosofia internacional i generen coneixement i l'absorbeixen a l'àmbit internacional, o pràcticament diríem que no existeixen.
This is number 19 of our conference series, meanwhile called Central European Covered Bond Conference, which was initiated by the Polish Mortgage Foundation 19 years ago. In order to achieve a transfer of know-how from the Western European countries to Central and Eastern European countries on how to modernize real estate markets, real estate finance, and capital market funding of mortgage loans.
This conference is important because of this precisely, because we deal about the technicalities of covered bonds all around Europe, try to find points in common, try to learn one to each other, and try to create basically a strong, specific funding instrument for mortgages in Europe. Covered bonds are an essential instrument to finance lending institutions that allow them to grant mortgages in better conditions for people. Therefore, if covered bonds work properly, this ultimately means that mortgages are granted to people at a better interest rate, and then people should be able to repay them properly, thus avoiding evictions and ultimately avoiding homelessness.
The European Commission indeed published a consultation paper on a common framework for covered bonds in Europe, and this is pretty much driven by this capital market union policy of the European Commission. The concern is to provide capital to the real economy, and covered bond could be one of those instruments. And the idea is that a harmonization of covered bonds would increase the depth of the market, would increase lending to the real economy.
Que España, aun siendo un país bastante intervencionista en esta cuestión de las valoraciones de los inmuebles, no es el único dentro de la Unión Europea que tiene estas reglas estrictas sobre cómo se valoran, o estas reglas precisas de cómo se valora. Otros países como Dinamarca o como Polonia, que también han intervenido, o desde el público países como Alemania, también tienen estas reglas que tratan al final de asegurar la prudencia en las valoraciones, aunque, como hemos visto en nuestra crisis y en la de otros países, a veces es muy difícil conseguir que ese valor sostenible sea real, sobre todo como hemos visto en España durante esta crisis, donde los precios de los bienes han bajado de manera dramática, como dirían los ingleses.
A l'estat espanyol, Catalunya en aquest cas, també ha rebut els darrers anys, 13-14, algunes sentències de diferents tribunals europeus realment manifestant que la legislació, per exemple, hipotecària, presentava molts dèficits, tenia una situació de descompensació claríssima entre qui atorgava la hipoteca i la persona que adquiria aquesta hipoteca.
I think, first of all, we can achieve that we get a common definition of the covered bond framework all over Europe. Today, we have at least 5 or 6 different covered bond issuing models. And if we get a more harmonized legislation, then we can achieve a better understanding of the covered bond product, which will be for the benefit of the covered bond investors, actually, and will make the covered bonds as an industry to continue as a very secure industry and survive upcoming crises in the future. The advantages that the covered bonds will bring us is that it will get cheap lending for the retail clients all over Europe. That will secure that a lot of people still can own their own houses because they can achieve cheap funding The latest news which we're going to hear about here in panel 1 is the consultation paper from the EU Commission addressing a legal framework for covered bonds in the future all over Europe. It will be very interesting to hear what Mr. Kai Spitzer from the European Union will say on this conference of the consultation paper. I have read the consultation paper myself, and I find it actually very interesting for the coming process. And I think it's very positive the way it is made, the consultation paper.
I think that initiatives such as the conference we're participating in is very important to have the opportunity to debate many features of cover bonds in terms of its harmonization throughout EU countries. I think a long path has already been made, but everyone is expecting to have additional information or what can actually be done to make it more consistent in line with resolution measures which are in the BRRD directive. So personally, I think this is fundamental, really, very, very important to have the opportunity to listen to experts in the field and to improve wherever we can in each jurisdiction in their particular hard law.
Covered bonds now we have in most European countries with very few exceptions, but the legal position of covered bonds and the regulations are extremely different. We've got some countries with contractual regulations, other countries where you have clear regulations and law, and even those regulations are different. So it's very difficult to get an overview and really to understand where the differences are, particularly if it comes not only to the daily business of issuing covered bonds, but to what would happen in the insolvency of a bank and in a resolution of a bank, and with the cover pool for the covered bonds, then in order to bring money to the covered bondholders. We at VDP try to analyze this to bring the knowledge and expertise from many countries together in a project where we would try to have that in clear pictures and charts which show the position in the different countries. Still, it's a moving target. We see that now we have the project of the Commission checking if there should be additional European legislation, maybe directive for covered bonds. We got legal changes in all the countries, so we have clearly to look into the differences. So I cannot tell you what the position and the strength of covered bond is in all those countries, and cannot even say that I know it perfectly. But I can tell you that, at least for Germany, we are rather sure that we got a very good position.
This conference is very important for changing a know-how about funding with covered bonds. This is all about how to find sources from the capital market and to find mortgage and housing and public financing. We have already completed a very sophisticated subject following the newest legislations to answer the question what could possibly happen after insolvency of covered bond issuer. Maybe because of the crisis. These pessimistic questions are asked by rating agencies and investors, and they try to explore what would be the legal scenario for proceeding after this unlucky event of insolvency of covered bond insurers.
It was a very successful conference. We had 4 panels, and each panel gets 1.5 hours, so they have really time to talk about these issues. And we are very thankful that Professor Nassare and his university arranged that conference in an absolute perfect manner. Everything was great, including the sun he promised last year.